Paul sitting there?
I tried to come up like a half an inch and I dropped like 3 or 4.
I had one that I would put it up and I was still sinking out throughout the course of the meeting. Maybe that's the woman. Following this meeting for stormwater, or do what we did last week?
Right before this meeting adjourns, we can just announce that we're going to go into an executive session to discuss potential litigation, with no action to be taken later. Adjourn this meeting, we go into executive session, and then that's it.
Okay.
As soon as we're done, we can just come start the township meeting like normal.
So just for, in the order of this, I'm gonna say that, nothing at this time, but we'll revisit the executive session at the end.
So I have you.
Like with the order of the.
Whatever he said.
Oh, because it's already on the agenda.
Yeah, that's why I was asking that.
Yep.
The
Okay.
only thing he may be a little struggling hearing this, he's listening on the other phone.
Okay.
He listens, so there may be a little lag if that's how he's listening.
Okay.
But he's mic fully so we can hear any verbalized
Okay.
information. So
Gotcha.
try to make it work here.
Okay. We're good. Am I good to start, Brendan?
Yep, you're ready.
Okay. Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Stormwater Authority meeting for Swatara Township at 6:30 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just slowed down.
All right. Secretary Savage, could you please do roll call?
Director Tuckey,
Here.
Director Zubek,
Here.
Director Connolly,
Here.
Director Ellis,
Here.
Chairman Steele.
Here.
All right. And just for the public, since Director Steele is not here, I will be chairing this meeting this evening. We did not have an executive session prior to the meeting, but I'll have an announcement with regard to that between items 12 and 13. We will go ahead and move on to item 13, visitors' requests and comments. These visitors' requests and comments will be kept to agenda items only. If you have a comment, please come forward, state your name, address, as well as write it down, and you may begin.
While we're on that, I think you said 13 by mistake, so it's number 3, and I think we should be clear.
Just, what are you saying?
I was going to say, I think we should be clear that Commissioner Steele is here, but not here, in case anybody didn't know that. He's attending the meeting remotely. I don't know if that was said or not.
We had him, he said he was here when we did the roll call, so
I'm
yes,
just saying,
clearly he's
people
participating
are
remotely.
watching, and they would see that there's only 4, so. I just-
Right, but they're also here too, so. He's very clearly participating remotely, so, for the public. All right, I don't see anyone jumping up to come and do visitors' requests and comments, so we're gonna move on to item 4, motion to approve the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion with regards to the agenda at this time? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. We're on item 5. Motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
Motion.
You have a
Second.
motion, you have a second. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. Approval to amend the cost sharing agreement to include part-time billing clerk, 50% township, 50% stormwater. This was approved by the township last week, and now it's being approved by the stormwater authority, and then as well as budgeted cost of living adjustment. Do we have any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Consent agenda is approved. We're up to item 6, consideration of minutes. We have the January 8th, 2024.
Madam Chair, I motion to table those minutes
Okay.
for approval.
We have a motion. I'll second. They're not in our packet. Do we have any discussion with regard to tabling? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so the minutes will be tabled until next month. We're up to item 7, the Stormwater Monthly Report. Turn it over to our Manager of Utilities, Mr. Trafka.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Good evening, directors. I'll quickly run over the January Stormwater Monthly Report. The announcements are Stormwater staff is looking forward to a busy 2025. We have a few bigger projects, the Highland Street project, the Dewey Street project, and the Donald Taylor Park Stream Restoration and Park project. Upcoming activities, stormwater staff began to do our required outfall and BMP inspections as weather permits. We didn't get a lot done in January because weather did not permit too many inspections. Staff continues to work with HRG for our GIS mapping, and staff will begin cleaning and televising our stormwater system as weather permits. January activities, we continue to monitor the Spring Creek Stream Restoration Project. We did work with HRG for the GTRP grant. We did receive notification last week that we did not receive that grant. Stormwater staff worked with HRG for the right-of-way and the easements for the Highland Street project. HRG, of course, continues to review all our land development and do all the stormwater inspections for the land development. Stormwater staff completed a small pipe repair in Harrisburg and Penn. We also did 6 inlet inspections and televised 4 pipes following a resident's request for investigation. Staff attended the meeting to discuss the upcoming changes for the MS4 permit. Stormwater engineer Hess will follow up on some of the changes that we were made aware of. Staff attended the pre-con meeting at 6650 Evelyn, and we also attended the internal meeting for the Cloverleaf subdivision. That is the end of my report for January.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question. The MS4 permit, just for the edification of everyone, could you go into a little bit of detail about what goals we need to meet for that and whether or not we met our goals in 2024?
What was the second part of the question, Commissioner?
Did we meet our goals for the MS4 permit in 2024?
So the first part of the question was, what does the permit entail? What are some of the requirements? So the original permit was it was a 5-year permit from 2018 to 2023. DEP extended the permit by, I believe it's 2 years. Right, so during that first permit term, we were required to begin doing outfall inspections, begin doing BMP inspections, begin our GIS or our documenting of our stormwater system. And the most important part of that I believe is part of that permit, was the sediment reduction. The sediment reduction and stormwater engineer can certainly speak more about that, but it was very technical. There was formulas that were put together to estimate what each municipality was required to remove as part of the permit. We were able to do that through the stream restoration project between Bonnie Mead and Oakley. And, you know, our street sweeper calculations go into that. Sediment reduction from vacuuming out the cleaning and vacuuming out the pipes go into that. So there was a lot of numbers put together. But I think our requirement from our PRP that we submitted was around 464,000 pounds of sediment that we were to be, did I hit it right, Commissioner?
Did 464,376.
I'm good with numbers.
Yeah,
It's the
there you
rest
go.
of the stuff.
That would be a winning.
So
is it Price is Right or?
we believe we were able to get to that number and actually go a little bit above with a few of the projects. And again, I don't want to steal stormwater engineers Hess's thunder, but the new permit term is going to be, or the new permit requirements are going to be a little bit different than what our old permit term was. So that's the permit. And then as far as what we did in 2024, we did continue to do our BMP inspections. We did our outfall inspections. And I'll say this, the original permit, we were only actually required to do the inspections, I believe it was one through the permit term. What we did was a little more than that. And we felt like when we first started the inspection process, we knew of about, I want to say 78, 80 BMPs throughout the township, maybe a few more. Till it was all said and done, we discovered there were 178 BMPs throughout the township. So the exercise was good because we learned a lot as a staff, and then, we get to kind of watch to make sure that those BMPs are functioning correctly. The other things again that we've done in 2024, we did get to do a little bit of cleaning and vacuuming. We did get to do multiple pipe repairs, inlet repairs, as we discover them, either from A, residents' request, or B, through our investigation. It keeps staff busy. It really does. And then, the street sweeper is part of it as well. Again, we get credit for our sediment reduction from the amount of trips around the township that we do. That all gives us credit for that sediment reduction. So that's what we've done in 2024, and I'm sure I've missed 100 other things, but that pretty much covers it.
Yeah, I really appreciate the overview. One final question. As far as the street sweeping, what percentage of our permit is street sweeping, and do we track exactly how much we're doing?
So the way our PRP was calculated, we used what was called the expert panel. And the expert panel, and again, I'm not an engineer, but the expert panel was calculated by the lane miles of the township, the type of sweepers that we have, the amount of trips that we made around the township annually, and then we were given a percentage. You estimate what your load is that you brought in, and then you're given a percentage. the more trips you make around the township, the higher the percentage credit you get. And I want to say we were in the like 11 to 16% credit. So till it's all said and done, what we were giving credit for is about, I want to say 25,000 pounds of sediment reduction annually. It seems like a lot, but we send 2 sweepers out, and again, it takes a long time at 3, 4, 5 miles an hour to drive the entire township. It's not something that, we get through the township in a month. It might take them a little more, maybe a month and a half. You get through 6 times, 8 times, and we were also able to count our rotation with our leaf collection, right? Because we do get through the township probably 8 to 10 weeks picking leaves. So again, it's not sediment, but it's organic. We were able to get that as a credit for the amount of trips we go through. So it's very complicated.
No, I understood, and thank you for explaining that
Sure.
in terms that we do understand. So
Mike's probably back there going, no, it's not
you
it.
can call me tomorrow and fix it. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And I know at one point, we started to go down the road of like, are we going to change the way that the calculations were done? This predates HRG, and then decided it wasn't advantageous, so we stuck with what we had. So,
And I think, again, I don't want to put stormwater engineer Hassel on the spot, but like that was one of the things I couldn't understand. Like it was very complicated,
yeah,
and everybody had their own formulas.
yeah.
And I'm not saying any one of them was wrong, but they got to the numbers using different formulas. And
Yeah.
it just was very calculated or complicated. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Assuming, yep, you're good. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to item 8 now. We'll have a presentation from Mike Hess, our stormwater engineer.
Thank you, everyone, for the invitation to come in this evening. Kevin set the stage perfectly and kind of talked about what we had done in the last round of the MS4 program, which was, again, 2018 through 2023, got extended through 2025. We recently, so January 31st, DEP published draft guidelines for public comment for what they anticipate the next round of requirements looking like. And they are quite a bit different, especially with regard to a lot of the things that Kevin discussed last, like sediment reduction and those sorts of things. So wanted to do kind of a high-level overview this evening. I'll answer any questions as best I can. The information's still pretty new, and we're digesting it and understanding it better and better day by day. But I think at this point have a pretty good sense of the framework that we're going to be looking at. So I thought maybe I would start with some of the small changes, and then we'll work our way up to the big ones. So a couple of the small changes with regard to who needs to get a permit. So who's required to file for an MS4. They've updated to say you have to use the data from the 2020 census, which makes sense because we're now in 2025. We have more up-to-date data, and it's all driven by population density. They've also made some changes about who can get a waiver. None of this affects Swatara Township. Swatara Township still has to get a permit. Those requirements have only gotten more stringent. You had to get a permit before. You still need to get one now. Another part of the permit that's changed a little bit, but not in a real way that's going to affect us here in Swatara, are the 6 minimum control measures. So every permittee has these 6 minimum criteria you need to meet, regardless of what watershed you're in. Now, I'll talk later on about what we have to do here in the Chesapeake Bay watershed and some of our streams on a more local level, but every permittee throughout the state has to follow these 6 minimum control measures. And they've been tweaked a little bit, but it's not a wholesale change from what we've been looking at. So the first one, there are other changes, but I'll just give you some examples. The public education and outreach portion, we now have to post to social media, whereas before we didn't have to post to social media, you just had to put it in a newsletter. Public involvement and participation, we need to do targeted outreach to environmental justice areas. And this environmental justice area is going to come up later on when we get into the real nitty-gritty. The way that they figure out what is and isn't an environmental justice area mainly comes down to 2 things. One, were there the types of uses in the past that would contribute to environmental degradation? So did the area have heavy industry? Did it have mines? Did it have railroads and shipping ports or those types of things? And then does the area have a higher incidence of the type of ailments you might expect from environmental degradation? So higher rates of cancer, higher rates of asthma and those sorts of things. The web portal that you're supposed to use to determine if you're in or out of that area isn't up and running yet, but there's another one that gives you a score, and I think some areas of Swatara Township are going to qualify. That might help us later on when it comes to running the numbers. There's been some clarification on how we have to do illicit discharge detection and elimination, so how we have to go out and look for discharges that are not stormwater, some clarification on that. There will be a requirement to enact a new stormwater management ordinance in 2028. You might remember we did one in 2022, so 6 years later in 2028, they're going to ask us to do it again. But again, those are pretty minor changes compared to what we have to do specific to the Chesapeake Bay and any impaired waterways. So that's where the big change occurs. In the past, for the Chesapeake Bay, we had to reduce sediment, phosphorus, and nitrogen. And DEP said that if you meet your sediment goal, then you will, by default, meet the other goals too. That's kind of a marker for how you're doing on everything. That approach is really out the window under the new program. And what they're looking for now, the metric by which they will measure success under the new program is volume management. So how much stormwater volume do you retain, infiltrate, treat from your impervious areas? So it's really a completely, apples to oranges shift from how we had been doing it. That volume management requirement applies not just to the Chesapeake Bay, but it also applies to streams with certain types of impairments. And the 5 or 6 impairment types they give us are the most common ones that you find around here. In fact, there are a couple in Swatara Township that will qualify. Previously, we had to meet requirements for the Chesapeake Bay, but the impaired streams were qualitative only. We had to make best efforts. We had to make sure we weren't causing any further degradation. Those do now, under the new permit, have a quantitative requirement where we have to do more volume control for those impaired streams. The way that so the amount that we have to control stormwater volume, DEP is requiring a maximum extent practicable approach, which in a way is at least a little less confusing than what we had before. The sediment reduction requirement, there were a lot of different methodologies that you could use to calculate how much sediment you need to take care of. There's the expert panel report, there's a simplified method, there was a modeled result. And a lot of municipalities, it rightfully so, really questioned how accurate is it when we can do it 3 different ways and get 3 different answers. I mean, they can't all be right. So at least under the new permit, that issue should be better. Everybody's to calculate their maximum extent practicable volume reduction by using a spreadsheet. And at first, when the draft guidelines came out, that spreadsheet wasn't available. And that was kind of disappointing. We said, we want to start plugging in some numbers and see what's this going to mean for our clients. It is now available, just real recently. So we're starting to run those numbers. I don't have good ones for you yet this evening, but that's something that we can do now. So we're going to start to dig into that. There are a couple of ways in that spreadsheet that municipalities can get credit. So if you calculate, I'll just say 10,000 cubic feet of storage volume, you can start to whittle that down a little bit by doing certain things. One, intermunicipal cooperation. So if you work with another municipality, you work with a county, those sorts of things can get you a reduction, and it looks like up to about a 10% reduction based on how it's drafted now. You can't just work with anybody. You couldn't work with somebody in Allegheny County, for example, because they're in a completely different watershed. They either have to be in the same watershed, and it's a fairly small watershed, or be in the same county. So I think county is probably going to be the trigger there for how most municipalities cooperate. There's also some credit for environmental justice areas, which is the thing that I mentioned earlier. So we put all the parameters from the municipality into this spreadsheet. We put in impervious area, which there are a few different sources from which you can pull that impervious area. I'd suggest we check a few and maybe use which one's most beneficial. And at the bottom, at the end of the exercise, it spits out, this is how many cubic feet of storage volume you need to accomplish. So that's great. That's our requirement. That's what we need to do. The second half of that then is, well, how do we do it? And that's the volume management plan. So once we know how many cubic feet of storage volume we need to take care of, we need to put together a plan to do it. And a couple of points on that. That volume management plan is going to contain a number of stormwater control measures, which in the past we talked about BMPs, now we have SCMs. So we got all new acronyms here. But at the end of the day, we're building stormwater control features. We're building basins. We're building underground storage beds. Anything that stores stormwater is a stormwater control measure. So in that plan, we figure out that we're going to do this list of projects, and it's going to get us so many cubic feet of storage volume. That's how we're going to meet our goal. One nice thing about how we would do that under the new permit is that we can put in potential projects, and we can have twice as many as we need or 3 times as many as we need, and then just choose which ones to implement after the plan is approved. Previously, that would have required an amendment to the plan, which requires it to go back to DEP and 30-day public review. As long as we cover everything and then we're just going to implement a selection of them, that plan can still be used. The stormwater control measures consider the first 1 inch of runoff off of the impervious surface, and there's some limits on how deep they can be. And all of that, in my opinion, is really pushing us to do a larger number of more dispersed, smaller projects, not mega basins. Mega basins aren't going to get us as much credit as if we do those projects kind of spread out around the municipality. A couple other points on some changes in the new requirements. If we have developers who go above and beyond their stormwater management requirements, and we have certain agreements and operation and maintenance agreements, easements, those sorts of things, there is a mechanism under the new draft guidance where we can credit that to the MS4 program, which is great. So there might be some win-win opportunities there where developers aren't going to do it for nothing, but maybe if we can give them a break on their stormwater fee and they can do, say, twice as much stormwater management and provide us with the credit for the second half, there's a good opportunity there. And also intermunicipal cooperation, which I mentioned a minute ago. Before that was allowed, but there wasn't really a framework for it. In the new permit, there's a framework for it. So let me talk about schedule a little bit, which is one area where I have a significant concern. So the next couple of milestones, March 19th, 2025, everyone throughout the state is, that's the deadline to submit your comments to DEP on the draft guidelines. We're working on a set of comments. So if you have any, please share them with us. We'll put them in, or, anyone can put them in if you prefer to do it independently. So that's March 19th of this year. There's not a date announced yet for when they plan to release the permit guidance. So we still don't know when the new permit's going to go into effect. It would be great to know, but we don't. The draft guidance does say that September of this year, we should have our volume management objective. So we should have that spreadsheet complete that says this is how much volume control we need to do. That's going to be due September of this year. So you would think they'll announce the formal program sometime before that, but that's not clear yet. The volume management plan, so how are we going to do it? What are the different devices we're going to put in? That's scheduled to be submitted September of 2028. So on one hand, that's great. They give us a couple of years to put our plan together, which previously we had very little time. But there's a downside, and I'll get to that. So we submit the volume management plan, how we're going to meet our goals in September of 28. DEP says that it's their intention to get all of those reviewed within 1 year. So we should be able to count on having approval by September of 29. Now here's the problem. The implementation, so completion of all of those projects, is due September of 31. So we have a longer planning period, but a shorter implementation period. And my concern is that with only 2 years to implement, it becomes very difficult to fund these projects. So there's usually 2 ways to fund them. One, wherever we can, we're going to look for grants, but grants take a year to come through, typically between when you apply and when you actually get funding. So of that 2-year implementation period, we already burned the first half of it, if we pursue grants. The other option that's also common is with the stormwater fee. But most of the legislation which authorizes the collection of fees for authorities or for municipalities says that it has to be driven by the cost of the program. Well, we won't entirely know the cost of the program until September of 2029 when our plan is approved. If we start to collect fees, if we start to design projects before that, it's all speculative. I mean, DEP might say, we didn't approve your plan. We don't like what you did. You have to do something different. So that's a little bit of a difficult situation where, we do need to build up funds in order to implement the projects between 29 and 31, but we don't have certainty that those projects are going to be approved, so how can we assess fees that fund those projects? It's all going to be based on estimates and planning and that sort of thing. So that's one of our big comments back to DEP. We think that the schedule is problematic. And just to kind of drive home, maybe their lack of attention to the schedule, a lot of these deadlines are on weekends. I mean, who's going to submit the plan on a Saturday? I think they didn't really look at the calendar. So definitely some room for improvement there. Frankly, I wish they would have given us twice as long, even if we had to do twice as much. I mean, give us a 10-year program, but make us do twice as much, then it solves a lot of those issues. But it is what it is at this point. We're going to raise the comment. If DEP pushes it through anyway, we'll do the best we can with it. I could get way down into the weeds on a lot of the other finer points, but that's kind of the big overview of what the changes look like. Any questions?
I do have a question. Do we have any statistics or anything measurable on any volume controls now that are existing?
If you have existing volume controls now, that would help to reduce your baseline load, but you wouldn't be able to credit it towards the new program. So there were, under the old program, we had to track BMPs, so stormwater basins and stuff, that were large enough that, number one, the project required an NPDES permit, and that were built after a certain date. I think it was 2013. So we do have a pretty good inventory of those. We were required to up until now. But the smaller ones or the older ones, we really don't. And the way that would get credited, again, by reducing the baseline and not as a direct credit, we won't get as much out of it as we maybe could.
Is there any way to look at, if there's a formula for where we're at, you're saying then that'll come off of the later expectations, but is there any way to look at what would be expected through current land development at the point, like you said, credits for, we have some things coming online.
Yeah.
Now, so we're kind of in that, like, is it hurting us or helping us now?
If developers, meet their requirements under the stormwater ordinance and do no more, which is what most of them are generally going to do, they're not going to want to spend more than they have to, then that's not going to be creditable under the new program. Just their baseline requirements, to get their post-development flows back to their pre-development, that doesn't count. They would have to go above and beyond that. And it's only the part that goes beyond that would be creditable. So I think a lot of the projects that are in the pipeline now, they're not going to go very far above and beyond. There's probably not much credit to get. But projects that start coming in the door in the future, we can try and work with those applicants and say, hey, why don't we try and work something out, make your basin 20% bigger, and let us take credit for that additional 20%, and in exchange, we'll do something for you.
Is it possible that any of the projects that are going on now in the next year, you could identify ways that they could upgrade that could help them on the fee and us on the requirement?
Yeah, I think we're going to start doing that. We want to make sure to have that conversation with new plans coming in the door.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Anyone else?
I do have a question. So I'm assuming we're going from the PRP to basically a VMP.
Yep.
Will we have to, like before we had land studies that did that, will we have to do something like that, or is that something that your firm would take care of?
That's something that we'd be happy to do for you if you'll have us do it. But it's you're right, it's very similar to the old PRP. It's just it's a volume management plan instead of a pollutant reduction plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, and also, since you said, I know I made this request last year, and I never got it onto the website for that presentation that you did at Stormfest. But at some point now, since that's something that could be credited, if you and Kevin could get together and film that, and then we can get that on. So basically, for the public, Mike had a diagonal piece of wood that had water running off of it, and he had plastic totes with different holes and spread out, and it kind of showed how you would slow down the flow, and how, if you have grass and things like that, like how it would impact the way that water flows. So I think that's a good representation of what we're going to have to do.
Yeah, it's thanks, and happy to do it. Have the rig right over in the office. Just needed to be
Okay.
warm enough. The water stays
Yeah.
water, and we'll set it up and
Well,
run it.
yeah, and once we get some more information on this, like we don't have to do it too early too, since we want to make sure we're getting credit for that for our public outreach.
Sure thing.
I have a question related to the Stormfest.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Was that little rabbit that was hanging around your water, was that a prop? Because it was attracting everyone's attention. They were coming over to where you
I
were.
thought they were coming to watch my presentation.
There was like a baby rabbit that continued to cross from like garden to garden around
Yeah, that-
only your display.
I think he lives there. I was just in the right place at the right time.
It's kind of sad, but the first time you went through your process, I watched more rabbit than the water. Then I tried to block it out, but then everyone else was yelling, "Wow, this guy's got a baby rabbit!" So if you weren't there, it was totally unrelated to what he was doing at an outdoor event, and somehow a rabbit was displaced and was trying to find a home near his exhibit. It was very
I wish
interesting.
I could say I pulled that rabbit out of my hat. But he lives there. So. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we're up to item 9, the treasurer's report. Treasurer Yarzinski.
Yes. This is the Stormwater Authority Treasurer's Report for the month ending January 31st, 2025. First, I'll do the operating fund. Had a beginning balance of $399,662.17. We received $489,404.70. We dispersed $114,205.88 with an ending balance of $774,205.88. In the reserves fund, there was a beginning balance of $400,000. We received $1,487.05. No disbursements with an ending balance of $401,487.05. Bringing the total stormwater funds at the beginning or at the end of January 2025 to $1,175,692.93. I did also want to note a couple things. The stormwater bills, the annual stormwater bills went out January 2nd and they're due March 3rd. That gives 60 days and there was no stormwater rate increase. Also, at the beginning of the month, I did want to address that there was an issue with Orrstown Bank remote deposit scanning. We scan our checks directly to the bank to deposit them in the order that they were received. At the beginning of this year, there was a delay where a lot were stuck in a pending status. However, as of last week, that feature has been resolved and all checks received have been deposited to date. Of course, if any were left in the drop box at the end after 4 o'clock today, those will be going tomorrow. But other than that, every check that we received has been deposited at this point.
Ms. Yarzinski.
Thank you.
I do have a comment. I think we need to circle back with the individual who stood up at the last meeting and expressed concerns, and I will make sure you have her information. But her check has not been deposited yet, and I was planning on asking for an update on the technical issues with Orrstown Bank. But I'm not sure if it was lost or what happened, but I know at least that individual's check has not been processed, and I'm hoping that there aren't any others that haven't been processed.
Before the meeting, I reported to her that her check had been received and it was one of the ones in the pending status. However, as of last week, they've all the 3 deposits, I think, that had been in the pending status have been deposited. So if hers isn't reflected, I will definitely double check that. But I got confirmation from the bank that they did when I reconciled those at the end of the month. So
We might, yeah.
but I will check.
Thank you for looking into that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, Solicitor Gogorizi, I know we do in the township meeting, I don't remember, do we need to do a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's report in this meeting?
You can. It's really just a formality.
Okay. Well, it's not on here. I don't know that we've done it before. So we'll just keep going. Chair Steele, do we normally do a motion and a second to accept?
We do not historically, we never have.
Okay, thank you. They all run together for me, I apologize. All right, so we'll move on to item 10, a solicitor's report.
The only item I have this evening is our discussion for executive session at the end.
Thank you. All right, we're up to
Hey,
item.
Steve, I guess, Madam Chair,
Yep.
I guess, Steve, I'm going to go on the record that I will not attend that executive session just due to a conflict. Is that sufficient?
Yes.
Yep, thank you. And we're up to item 11, visitors' requests and comments. If you have any comments, please step forward and you may begin. All right, hearing none. Possible stormwater violations. If anyone has any violations, you can come forward and present that as well. You can also send emails and reach out and we'll get any of those investigated. All right, I'm going to go ahead and announce that we're going to have a brief executive session following this meeting to discuss litigation. Is that sufficient? Okay. And we'll go to item 14, directors' requests and comments. Chairperson Tuckey?
Yes, just thanks for everyone that came out tonight for this meeting, and Kevin, thank you for everything you and your staff's doing.
Thank you. Chairperson Zubek?
Yes, I want to echo the comments of Commissioner Tuckey or Member Tuckey, and thank Kevin and his staff for.
Generous.
You
Thank
can
everyone.
tell I haven't done this one before.
Thank you for being chair tonight, and I just wanted to, thank everybody for coming out tonight, and thank you, Brittany, for you answered my question for comments this evening, so makes it easy. Have a good evening, everyone.
All right, Member Connolly.
Same thing. Thanks, Kevin, for the monthly report, Mr. Hess for the update, and that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, Chair Steele.
I don't have nothing for the public, just for Kevin and Austin and the board's edification. I did send what I could find basically on the MS4 key highlights of the proposed changes. Kevin and Austin, if you could get with Mike and just possibly review that list that I gave out, and maybe we can post that to the website of those changes and just make sure that information that I found online is correct.
Sounds good, thank you. And I'll just thank everyone for coming out this evening, and as always, thank you to our stormwater team. You guys do a great job. So I will go ahead and entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Meeting is adjourned at 7:10.